Welcome to practice. So tonight we are going to focus on heart openers, particularly preparing the body for a full version of fish pose towards the end of practice. And also we're going to be opening through the glutes and the hip flexors. I've been driving and on my computer a lot, so that's what I'm feeling tonight, just opening up the front of the body. And so we're going to start with a rolled up blanket, or in this case, I have a towel. And it's going to come about 1/3 of the mat, and it's going to be about the width of the mat. Another blanket is going to be folded at the top of your mat. And so go ahead and get yourself situated there. Take your time. And eventually, I'm going to have you place your feet on the ground with the knees bent and just begin to position yourself. This might take a little bit of time to position, but so that the rolled up blanket or towel is underneath the shoulder blades. And the folded blanket is under the head and the tops of the shoulders. And keep your feet on the ground. Lift your arms up so that they're along the ears, elbows slightly bent. And once you get there all the way on your back, you might find that you want to reposition, shifting forward so that the blanket is more onto your shoulder blades or more underneath. Just kind of play around with what makes more sense to your body. But what we're looking for is a slight bend in the center of the back, so right underneath the shoulder blades, so that the chest is pushing up towards the sky. And I'll just check in with y'all here with me. Do y'all have any questions at all? Or y'all doing okay?
Doing good.
Okay, good. And additionally, Mary Lawrence, for you who just joined, we're going to be using 2 blocks today and a strap. You don't have to jump up to get them now if you know that they're going to be readily available later on. But if you might want to go ahead and get them if they're going to be challenging to grab later. So yeah, here in our supported fish pose. This is a different variety than what we've tried in the past, which is where we usually have a block or a bolster in between the shoulder blades. And so I find that it creates just a little bit of a softer opening through the front of the chest. Keep your knees bent, but spread your feet wide on the mat and let your knees drop in towards each other. Notice how that slight difference in position of the knees allows the hips to drop down heavier into the earth. And then take a big breath in through the nose. Let it go audibly. 2 more times. We're going to be here for a few more moments. You can keep your legs as they are, or you might play with extending your legs forward so that your knees are straight. And if you choose that option, I encourage you to be active through the legs, maybe even pushing forward in through the toes as if you're pushing away from a wall. That's going to create more support in the low back. So I'll start to read the story of Matsyasana, or fish pose. So I found this story in Yoga International, and it's called The Mythology Behind Fish Pose. And this arrives from one of the Veda stories in the Vedas. So a long, long time ago, it so happened that Brahma, the creator, fell asleep, causing a period of cosmic dissolution. Rain began to fall and the water began to rise. And in the chaos, a demon named Hayagriva stole and made off with the 4 Vedas, which contained all the world's sacred wisdom. See if you can drop a little bit heavier, relax just a little bit more. From time to time, when things begin to fall apart and cosmic order is threatened, Vishnu, the preserver, takes form in the world to save the creation and the creatures. His forms are known as avatar, meaning descent. The form that he takes depends on the needs of the time. And this time, he took the form of a Matsya, or a fish. Between now and 3 breaths from now, begin to roll over on one side. Go ahead and roll all the way off of your blanket and use the other arm just to push the blanket to the side, or the rolled up towel, I mean. And then come on back onto your back so that your head is supported by the folded up blanket. Hands can be on your belly or by the side. Feet spread wide. And begin to windshield wiper the knees side to side. So for those of you who are in cold places where fall has actually begun to set in, you might notice a little bit more cracking in your joints. It's the Vata season, the season of dryness, of airy and spaciness. And so that is in the air, and that carries out in our bodies. And so what happens when we are in a place of higher Vata is that our joints tend to crack more. And so if you find that to be the case with you, have no worries. Just take your breath into those spaces and allow that air to naturally release. Once your knees are dropped to the left, pause there. Should feel a stretch in the hip flexor of the right leg, gazing up towards the sky. Take big belly breaths here. So go ahead and place your hands on your belly if they're not. And for a count of 4, breathe in. Pause for 1, 2, and then breathe out for a count of 4. Pause, 1, 2. Do that on your own, allowing the breaths to expand the belly, counting in for 4. Pausing at the top. And then letting go for the same amount of count. Pausing at the bottom. 2 more times. Be only with the breath. And then knees back to the center and over to the other side. You might notice as the breath in expands the hands up and out. And as the exhale draws them closer in towards each other. Come back to that 4 count breath. Noticing all 4 parts of the complete breath cycle. One more. And the knees back into the center. Hug the knees in towards the chest. Wrap the arms around the chest so that, see if you can bring hands to opposite elbows. If that's not possible, that's okay. Hands to the wrist. And then lift your head up so that almost so that the forehead is in between the knees. So that you're in a tight, tight ball here. So momentarily stretching through the back of the body, so counteracting the front body opening that we just did. Take big breaths into the back of the body. Really tuck the chin into the chest. Yes, you might begin to shake. Yes, you might feel this in your abdominals. That's okay. Can you be here just for 3 more breaths? And can you relax the neck and shoulders? Take a big breath in. Exhale, release down. And grab your strap. And we will place your strap or anything that can act as a strap. So a tie works, a t-shirt would work. And we're gonna place it underneath the right heel. If there's room, wrap the strap around the hands a few times so that you're not gripping in the, so you're not holding a tight grip with the hands. And then the left foot can be on the ground, or if you'd like more opening through the left quad and the hip flexor, you can extend the left foot forward. And if you're choosing that option, be active through the left leg. And then push the right heel into the strap, guide the right toes towards the right shoulder. Take a big breath in. Let it go. Take a breath in. Let it go. Take 3 more breaths there, and then after that cycle, open the right leg out to the right side. So fast forward in the Matsyasana story. The good king Satravan was bathing in a river when a tiny fish swam into his cupped hands and cried, "Majesty, protect me." So the king put the fish in his coconut shell bowl and took her home. By the next morning, she had grown to fill the bowl. The king produced a larger bowl and then successfully larger bowls and ponds and lakes, but the fish rapidly outgrew every container. At last, the king decided to take her to sea. "Please don't put me in a sea where the monsters are," cried the fish. Bring the right leg back to the center. And then across the body towards the left. With the right hand face down. Or if you'd like to find a slight back bend, you can allow the right palm to face up. And you might just play with the difference there. So we want to feel this stretch in the right glute all down the IT band. And so if you don't quite feel that, shift the toes down towards the earth. You'll notice that'll also guide the knee to point down towards the earth. Stay active through the right heel, so pushing into the strap still. Ask yourself where you can soften. Maybe in the jaw, maybe around the eyes or forehead. Take one more breath. Inhale back to the center and release the strap, release the right leg to meet the left and just rest for a moment. Allow whatever sensation needs to release from that right leg to do so. You might notice that there's a difference between either side. Noticing with a sense of curiosity rather than judgment or criticism. And then we'll find the other side. Bringing the strap under the left leg or the left heel. Wrapping it around the hands if there's space. Pushing into the strap with the heel as if you're trying to break the strap. Guiding the left toes and knee towards the left shoulder. Breathing in through the hamstring. Two more breaths. And then you'll drop that leg towards the left side. By now, it was clear to the king that this was no ordinary fish. The king folded his hands and begged the fish to reveal her true form and to explain what was really happening here. Immediately, Lord Vishnu, remember, the preserver, the one who saves creation and its creatures, Lord Vishnu stood before him. Go ahead and bring that leg back to the center. And this time across the body towards the right. Same thing as you did on the other side. Breathe in through that left hip. He told King Satravat that in 7 days, the entire world would be flooded. Sound familiar? But he says, I will send a boat for you, and you will help me to rebuild the world. During the next 7 days, you must gather every kind of seed and plant that grows on earth and the subtle bodies of every species of creature. When I arrive, put all of these into the boat. Use the cosmic serpent as a rope to tether the boat to the fin on my head, and I will carry you safely over the flood. Left leg back to the center. And release it down to the earth to meet the right. And just be in stillness for a moment. Notice what it feels like in your body to do nothing. To simply rest. And then maybe notice what it feels like in your mind. Do your thoughts begin to begin to be more active when your body stops moving? Or does your mind also find a sense of calm when the body rests? Again, noticing with simple curiosity. And then once again, hug your knees into your chest. This time, hands on the back of the hamstrings. And you can either guide yourself up to a seat or rock and roll up and down along the spine. I love this option because it's just a nice massage on the back. I used to have a teacher in Asheville that said that this is the poor man's back massage. I resonated. And then we will come all the way up and right into our cat-cow position, just for a few rounds of cat-cow. And I'm going to place my hands on the blanket that's still at the front of my mat, just because it feels nice and cushiony. And so just for a few rounds of breath, lower the belly, lift the gaze up towards the sky. And on the exhale, round through the spine, chin to chest. Your breath, your pace. When you find cat, you may decide to shift the hips back towards the feet and then come back through, just adding another subtle movement to it. One more round like that. Good, and then find your child's pose. Keep your hands on the blanket, and you'll notice that gives you a little bit of a lift so that you're dropping deeper into your shoulders. Allow your forehead to come to the mat. Breathe into the shoulders and the back of the heart. See if each exhale can allow the chest and the hips to drop closer towards the earth. Stay there for just 5 more breaths. Good, and then slowly slide through onto your belly, placing one cheek to the blanket and your hands around the face. And then let the hips wrap side to side. And then bring the opposite cheek to the mat, just finding balance. Keep rocking your hips side to side. Good. And then bring your forehead to the mat or just begin to lift up into your Sphinx pose. Today, we're going to keep our elbows in front of the shoulders, but you might still need to walk your body forward a little bit more. And so that the elbows, forearms, and palms are on the blanket at the front of the mat. And then drop the shoulder blades down so that the shoulders come away from the ears. And then take a big breath in. On the exhale, drop the chin down to the chest. Breathe in through the back of the neck. Exhale, right ear to right shoulder, stretching through the front of the neck, or the left side of the neck, sorry. And then go ahead and find a nod, nodding the head front and back. Noticing where on the left side of the neck you'd like to, or you might need the stretch. And pause there. Take 2 breaths there. For me, I find that I like to drop the head back and stretch through the front of the neck. Inhale. Exhale, chin back to the chest. Another breath in. Exhale, left ear, left shoulder. Find your nod. If your shoulders are starting to burn, that's okay. A little bit of strength never hurt anybody. If they're really starting to burn, almost as if you're losing sensation, then come out of it. Go ahead and breathe into the side of the part of the right side of the neck. On the exhale, chin drops back to the chest. Stack one hand on top of the other, rest the forehead on stacked palms. Bend the knees. Windshield wiper the feet side to side. And then we are going to come into Spider-Man pose in honor of Halloween. So slide your blanket forward a little bit, just so that it'll support your forehead while we get set up. And then bring your hands next to the hips, palms face up. Begin to tie the feet and the legs together, but keep the feet pushed into the mat. And then keeping the backs of the hands resting on the mat, just begin to lift up the back of the heart and the head, keeping the gaze down. And then draw the shoulder blades in towards each other. Guide them away from the ears. And then begin to lift the hands up, pushing the palms up like you're pushing away the ceiling. Maybe you lift up a little bit higher. And take 3 breaths. In and out of the nose. Softening in all the spaces that aren't needed here. So if you notice, this is the same position that we were in earlier, our fish pose, only now we're on our belly. Same opening in the body. On your exhale, stack one fist on one hand on top of the other and rest the forehead down. So, Vishnu says that he will carry the king safely over the flood in the boat that is tied to him with the cosmic serpent. And so on this next round of Spider-Man, you might imagine that you are this boat carrying the king and all the creatures over the flood in safety. And so find your strong position, set yourself upright, tying the feet and legs together. Be very active in the legs. Push the tops of the feet into the mat. Begin to lift up the back of the heart and the head. Maybe this time, only maybe if it's okay on the neck, you look forward. Maybe the hands clasp, tops of the palms come together. Only if it's available to you. All options are good. And of course, it all matters just what it feels like in your body. If you feel openness and spaciousness, then that's where you should be. If you come into a position that constricts your breath or brings you tension, then that is where you should not be. So just for 2 more breaths, come to that place of spaciousness and openness. And then exhale, release down. One cheek to the mat. Soften everything from the feet all the way up to the crown of the head. And then hands under shoulders. Push yourself up into tabletop. And since we have our blanket so easily placed, go ahead and pull it back so that it's going to come in the middle of the mat. Grab your blocks or your books. We're going to bring them at the highest position. And we are going to step the right foot forward, coming into just a low lunge. Nothing fancy. And we'll keep the top of that back foot down. And if the blocks at the highest position still aren't working with the hands flat, then just come up onto the fingertips. And what we're going to do here is just rock the hips back and then forward. When we rock back, we're not really looking for the hamstring stretch. But what we're trying to do is each time we go forward to maybe go a little bit farther. Just allowing the body to slowly transition into the spaces that are available. Inhaling to shift back, exhaling forward. Just one more time. Good, and then we'll hold there. You can keep the hands to the blocks, or maybe the hands come to the heart. Finding you'll notice a slight back bend. So push the center of the heart into the thumb knuckles, gazing forward, or maybe you shift the gaze up. And if you really like to work here, you can lift the arms up along the ears, opening through the heart. Just 2 more breaths. So believe it or not, all of this is meant to prepare us for the final version, full version of fish pose. Release the hands down on the block, except for this part. This is just a twist. Left hand on the block, right arm lifts up to the sky. You can release the block lower if you'd like a deeper twist. And remember that the closer you bring the hand to the foot, the deeper the twist is going to be. Just 3 more breaths here. You can rotate the wrist or if you like. But twists are nice to counteract back bends. On the exhale, release the hand down. And then release the right foot, the right knee back to meet the left. And just rock the hips side to side. I'm extra cracky tonight. We'll step forward with the left foot. Blocks on either side of the foot. Get yourself positioned. So just check that front knee, whenever you do shift forward, that it stays over the ankle and not over the toes. We don't want to over bend in the knee. And then on the inhale, we'll shift back. On the exhale, forward. So you'll notice a nice stretch through the hip flexor of the right leg. That place where the psoas wraps around the hip socket. That place that is shortened when we sit too much. And so stretches like this help to find elongation, and it therefore helps to relieve low back pain, as well as aiding in overall posture. Next time you're forward, hold there. Choose to keep the hands on the blocks, or guide the belly in towards the spine to support the back bend as hands come to the heart. Maybe find further lift and expansion. Again, remembering to come only to that space or that posture where you feel spaciousness and openness. Soften the shoulders and the muscles in the face. One more breath. On the exhale, release hands down, right hand to the block, left arm lifts up. Rotate the wrist if you like. Big breath in. Exhale, release down. And release the left knee back to meet the right. One more time. Just rock the hips side to side. And then keeping your knees on the blanket, we're going to find another child's pose, but this time place one of your blocks under the chest and the other block under the forehead at any position that feels right. And then both hands by your side, allow the shoulders to round forward. So another counteraction to those back bends. So at the appointed time, King Satravat loaded the boat with every kind of seed and medicinal plant, and with the subtle forms of every living creature. In the meantime, Lord Vishnu, or should we say Matsyavatar, Vishnu's descent in fish form, had rescued the Vedas from Hayagriva's clutches. And remember, Hayagriva was the demon who stole and made off with the 4 Vedas at the origination of the chaos. And so Matsyavatar stowed them safely with the world-saving cargo. As they sailed, Matsyavatar spoke divine wisdom to King Satravat, teaching him all about the yogas of jhana, which is wisdom, bhakti, which is devotion, and karma, which is action. Today, his discourse is known as the Matsya Purana. They sailed over ages and eons until Brahma, the creator, awoke. A shining new world emerged from the ocean, and Satravat became the Manu, the lawgiver, ruler, and father of the creatures of that new age. All because the king allowed Matsyavatar to bring him back to safety. And he aided in bringing all the creatures and creation together. So let's bring our blanket back to the front of the mat and come onto your back. Not onto your back yet. We're going to come into a seated posture. So we are positioning ourselves for our fish pose. We're going to start with the feet on the ground and then begin to walk your hands so that they're underneath the hips. And then we will slowly begin to transition back so that your elbows are bent. And from there, begin to tie the elbows together. Keep the gaze forward to start. And now for some of us, this is where we're going to want to stay. For others, if you feel that it's safe on your neck, you might begin to drop the head back, noticing that that's going to create a big opening through the front of the neck and slight compression through the back of the neck. And now all of us, no matter where your head is, you might then play with extending your legs forward. If you're choosing that option, tie the feet and the legs together, pointing the toes, just like we did earlier in our boat or Spider-Man pose. Take a big breath in. Take a breath out. You might stay wherever you are. Oh, that's my parents' house phone. Sorry about that. You might stay wherever you are, or you might, for extra challenge, lift the feet, lift the legs so that the toes are pointing up to the sky. Navel is pulled in towards the spine. Toes are still pointing. And breathe. Maybe smile, even if you're in challenge. Take one more breath in. And then exhale to release down. Hands rest on the belly. Allow everything to soften. Good work. And so we are going to try that posture one more time, just to allow you to get one more chance to get into the best, strongest form of that fish pose. This time we're going to come into it from our back. We're going to bend our knees again, placing the feet on the ground. Walk the hands so lift the hips a little bit so you can bring the hands under the hips. Palms face down. And then keeping the knees bent, lift up through the back of the heart. So lifting the heart up towards the sky as you bend the elbows and walk them in towards each other, guiding the shoulder blades together. So again, just like we started before, the gaze can be forward, maybe gaze is up, or maybe the head drops back. If you want to drop the head back, but you want more support, you can always bring a block under the head. The feet can stay on the ground, or you can extend forward. Maybe the head comes all the way to the blanket. And again, maybe you lift the feet up. Breathe for 3, 2, 1. Release down with ease. And give yourself a pat on the back for all the good work. And then shift the knees towards the hips towards the left, the knees to the right for a gentle supine twist. Breathing in towards the left side of the body. And so what is important in this story is that the king and Vishnu were able to save the Vedas, the sum total of human and divine wisdom, saving seeds of agriculture and preserving the subtle bodies of every species of living creature for future rebirth. You might ask yourself, what would you choose to save if you were in King Satyavrat's position? What is special enough to you on this planet, in this life, to risk everything for? You're going to bring your knees to the center And twist to the other side. So hips to the right, knees to the left. In the beginning of the story, King Satravat spontaneously does a good deed by saving the tiny fish. By the end, it's revealed that the tiny fish is Lord Vishnu, the savior of all humanity. Think back on your own life. Have you ever performed a seemingly small service for someone, only to discover that that act had far-reaching positive consequences for more than just that person? Take a big breath in. Let it go and soften. And then inhale back to the center. And grab your block or your book, whatever you're using as the block. And lift your hips, placing it underneath your hips for supported bridge pose. Take a moment just to allow those hips to drop heavy. And you may stay here and play with extending one leg and then the other. And again, and you might notice if you do that, that'll really create even more opening through the hip flexors and the quads. Or you might decide to lift your feet up over the hips for a waterfall pose. Whatever version you take it fully and completely. Be with that 100%. So just as Matsya or Vishnu rebalanced earth and ocean, so too can practicing fish pose be a way of reestablishing your focus and giving you a sense of resiliency when gravity starts to set in. You might feel this, or you might have felt this when you were burrowing into the earth through the strong activity of your legs, which in turn buoyed your chest like a wave and deepened your breath. And this fish pose can also strengthen your back and abdominals. And yogis say that the deep neck curve benefits the thyroid. And so, of course, all heart-opening postures is going to lift your heart, lighten your mood, and aid you in connecting more deeply with yourself and the world around you. And so, in turn, creating a more loving and spacious and peaceful place for all of us. Slowly lower your legs if they're lifted, or bend your knees if they're extended, and lift your hips up, releasing from the block, and release down into your Shavasana posture. Since you have both blocks or the rolled up blanket, you might decide to give yourself extra support tonight in your Shavasana by placing one of them under your knees for just a subtle release of the low back. Allow the toes to fall out to the side and the palms to face up, encouraging continued openness through the heart space. And when you find a space of comfort, take a big breath in and hold it at the top. Sip in a little bit more air. And then let it go. Melt down towards the earth. Allow the whole body, mind, and spirit to soften. As you breathe, simply rest in this place of openness and support. Can you feel, even now, how your connection to the earth helps you to deepen your breath? Maybe you feel a deeper sense of elemental integration than before your practice. And perhaps you carry that feeling into your evening, into the remainder of the week. With every step on the earth giving you the fluidity to be spontaneous, open, and connected with all that you meet. Most of us try to control our experiences. But for yoga to really happen, we need to let go. So as you walk away from the practice tonight, I invite you to, in the same way that you do on your practice, I invite you to walk away with a relaxed way of thinking and tune in to a more expansive sense of awareness. So with that expansive sense of awareness, slowly begin to make your way up to a seat. Palms together at heart center. Anjali Mudra. And together we will take a final cleansing breath and then one round of Om. So you can join in with me if you feel comfortable, or you can just listen. And so we'll take a cleansing breath together, in through the nose, out of the mouth. Inhale for Om. Connected through the universal vibration, I bow to each one of you and say Namaste. Thank you so much for your practice, for staying spacious and open and fluid. If you have any questions, you can stay here and we can chat. Otherwise, I'll see you again later. Have a good evening.